Okay. So we're going to get started with our next workshop this week. We have Sierra, one of the human resource specialists for Capital Insurance Group, and today she's here to talk about how to research an employer. So Sierra, whenever you're ready, go for it.
Awesome. Okay, like you said, my name is Sierra. Welcome. I'm super glad. Hopefully there's some folks online. I'm super glad to be here to talk with you all today. I'm coming from Capital Insurance Group and going to walk through a few steps and tools about what researching an organization would look like. This says pre-interview research, but I'm going to come in with the caveat that you can use these platform skills, techniques at any stage, right? So even if it's application, you've already submitted an application but haven't been given an interview yet. But certainly you want to do this research prior to any interview or discussion with an employer. There we go. Okay, my name is Sierra. A little bit about me. I'm a human resource specialist at Capital Insurance Group, otherwise known as CIG. Human resource specialist is kind of a generalized term for somebody that works in human resources, but is doing a specific kind of work. So for me, I work on the talent acquisition team. So I spend a lot of time looking at resumes, looking at applications, talking and coordinating with applicants. You can also be a human resource specialist in other parts of HR. I went to UNR. I'm St. Peter. I graduated in 2017, right when they opened the Pennington building. So it's kind of fun to be back. I'm a Sagittarius. So my birthday's in December. I love animals, all animals, big dog person, big horse person, but in general, a big animal person. I love musical theater, and on top of working full-time at Capital Insurance Group, I also teach anthropology at Truckee Meadows Community College, which is what I got my degree in here, and also did my master's degree in. Okay, so for this situation, we're going to look at, okay, I applied for a job, I just got an interview, what do I do next? Where do I begin to prepare? You'll do a lot of things, right? So, you might practice your interview skills with somebody who's a friend or somebody who's in the industry that you're looking to go into. Review your strengths and weaknesses. Make sure that your resume is the most up-to-date version so you can hand it to them during the interview. Research potential questions. And then most importantly, well, let's not say most importantly, but very significant, research the company you're interviewing with. You would be maybe not surprised, but it's quite surprising the number of people who don't research the company ahead of time, even prior to like a pre-screen interview that's like very short and often over the phone, but it is a lot. However, 71% of applicants do research the company ahead of time, so you'll be up there with those folks. Okay, so I like to always start as an academic. I always like to start with a research question, but like, what is the question? Is it just learn more about the organization, or is there something that's important? So one of the things I like to think about a lot is, okay, when you're looking for an organization, you're entering the workforce, what are your own values and priorities? Is the priority money? Is the priority culture? Is the priority finding an organization that fits your personal values or things that are important to you, right? So it's great to take a minute and write those down. It's also important to then align your questions that you're trying to answer about the organization with those things. So it could be anything from, what does the organization produce? What's the product? It could be, what is the history of the organization in general, like as a universal, or it could be the history of the organization. For instance, our organization is newer to the Reno Tahoe area, so maybe you want to understand, like, how does Reno, what's the history of Reno and Capital Insurance Group? Are there more offices? Our organization has offices in Reno, Bakersfield, Monterey, and Roseville. but we have employees all over the West Coast. So those are questions you might want to ask. You might want to get a sense of what's the culture like, what are the values of the organization, and maybe benefits are really important to you. And so you want to kind of get a sense, do the benefits that they offer reflect what I'm looking for? It says, and then just a reminder that anytime you're researching something about the organization, it does not mean you can't ask questions about them. It also may help you write questions, your research for the interview, and you should always, always, always have questions. Because both research and questions are two things that interviewers often look for. I certainly know our organization asks very early on what you know about us, and also, do you have any questions? Okay, so I have about 9 steps that I'm looking at when thinking about research. The first is pretty general, start on the company's website. So for our organization, you come to our website, capitalinsurancegroup.com, and you'll see that at the very top, we have a careers page. That careers page is built out, has information like asking why would you choose our organization. It has videos about the organization. Ours are specifically like what sets us apart from other insurance not carriers, but insurance companies that you might go to if you're interested in a career in insurance, or if you're just finding insurance for the first time. So watching videos and looking and reading through thoroughly is going to be really helpful. Also looking in the about section, learn about the team. I always like to go down to the very bottom of the page and look at the links at the bottom to see, is there any more information that I can pull out of this site other than just the obvious things? But there's a few things that you will get that you may be asked about in an interview, specifically like understanding the tagline. So our tagline is protects and restores. Okay, those are 2 really big words. So what does that mean for our organization to protect and restore? So I would go through the website and look for those words and look for the information that speaks to what protect and restores means to Capital Insurance Group. And then from there, you can go into the products. You can learn about the experience of policyholders when they come to our website. What are they looking for, right? All of the little pieces that are going to give you a sense of how the organization engages with its customers. So for us, our biggest customer, we have 2 kind of customer levels, the agents and the policyholders. So that's where you're going to find how do both agents and policyholders, customers, engage with our site, and what does that tell you about the relationship between the organization and our customers. And so those are all going to kind of give you an idea of what are the values of the organization, and might also give you some really good and interesting questions that set you apart from other applicants. The second one seems a little obvious, maybe, hopefully, but you would be quite surprised at the number of people we get that come through that submit an application and you can tell that they have not read the job description. We spend a lot of time on our job posting, making sure that they're informative and that they have kind of all of the information and exciting pieces about coming to work with us. So right at the very top for this particular training role, we have a very important note at the top of the application. It says the claims trainee position is for recent graduates or those who will be graduating spring 2023. Now, things that are in the job posting, they're not meant to be limiting, but this statement does give you a sense of what our ideal candidate for this role looks like. That's not to say that people who come through that maybe aren't graduating in spring 2023, graduated last year, are making a career transition, are not people we don't want to speak to. But this gives you a sense of, okay, there's something about this role that is ideally situated for somebody graduating in spring 2023. And that's the assessment I would make. Now, I worked on this job posting, I wrote it, so I'm a little bit more informed about it. But that gives you the sense of people are thinking about these job postings when they're putting them online. And so reading them thoroughly, they're often not very long. Reading them thoroughly can inform your questions and also make sure that you have a lot of information when you enter into the interview. The next one is going to be LinkedIn and social media. I think I was doing some research about social media and LinkedIn and Gen Zers, and there was something that was saying that predominantly Gen Z is not on LinkedIn as much as millennials are. So if that's the case, then I would say if you are a Gen Zer and you're not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn, because employers still use LinkedIn. And they use it differently than other social media platforms. However, you are seeing an increase in employers using TikTok and Instagram to do outreach and post jobs. So the first thing you're going to do when you're interested in an organization on LinkedIn is click follow, especially if you already have an interview or you know for a fact you're interested in working for this organization. But I would say 9 times out of 10, regardless of the situation you're in, I would click follow. What that does is going to make sure that the information shows up on your LinkedIn feed. What this information does is it's going to highlight, like I meant to put this on the other slide, but I'll get to it. It's going to show you a little bit about the values and culture of the organization. What kinds of things are they promoting? So for us, we talk on our LinkedIn, we talk a lot about the employee experience. So we did our employee experience committee put together a week of fun things in honor of customer service week. And we had everything from pajama day to a bunch of lunch parties, all kinds of different things that helped bring together our employees in all of our different offices and our remote employees as well. And there were chances to win prizes and things like that. So it gives you some insight into how we celebrate as an organization. You'll see postings about our paid volunteer time, all kinds of different things that are catered towards the employee experience. So when you take that information in, you can use that to kind of inform either, again, writing questions about the culture of the organization for your interviews, or just getting a sense of the personality, right? We're an insurance company, but we still like to have fun. Like, insurance is a serious business, but most of us do not take ourselves too seriously. Take the work seriously, don't take yourself seriously. So we try to have a lot of fun in the office and have that fun and that connectivity go across all of the departments. And I feel like our presence on LinkedIn reflects that. This image down here, this claim to fame stories, this claim to fame stories, I think I meant to put that on the website slide, but this is another piece of things like videos are really critical. So if you're on LinkedIn or on the website, watch the videos. They're there for a reason. This one is particularly talking about stories of policyholders or insureds that went through some sort of loss and how CIG helped them to get back on their feet, whether it was auto or property or something more significant. All right, so this website, I think most people in the HR world have a love-hate relationship with Glassdoor, but it is a really good tool for folks that are looking for jobs. And it is something that we actively engage with. And so here you're going to get reviews from current and past employees about some of the pros and cons of working with an organization, paying attention to, are these reviews repetitive, same issues? People they'll typically see the CEO and the CEO rating and get a sense of, what the leadership is like, which again is really significant, because if the leadership is strong and engaging and welcoming, then the likelihood that the organization as a whole is going to match those values is high. And I can speak to the truth of that because our CEO has 100% approval on Glassdoor, and he is a very fun, very welcoming individual. He meets with every new hire for 30 minutes within their first week, one-on-one, regardless of where they are in our organization, whether it's entry level or an executive role. And that's something that goes really far in terms of the employee experience. The only thing to really watch out for on Glassdoor is going to be salary. So salary is, it's a fairly consistent, but it also changes and is measured every year by the organization to ensure that we continue to pay our employees a fair and livable wage depending on where they're located. And so you might not get always the most up-to-date salary. That's going to be true for like if LinkedIn, not LinkedIn, but Indeed gives you like one of those, you know, approximate salary ranges. There's another one that does it as well. That isn't always reflective. The nice thing is because we do business in California and Washington, by law, our organization and other organizations in our position are required to have salary transparency. So more and more you're seeing on the job description salary ranges for each of the roles, and those salary ranges are true to the role. And as the person who inputted all of our salary ranges on our job postings, I can feel confident in speaking truth to that. So that's something to keep an eye out for. And if you're really interested in that, if you're interested in the change in salaries based off of Glassdoor or the job posting, feel free to ask questions. As the same with benefits. But this is a great place to start when you're doing research. Google. Google is our friend. You have to be careful. I would apply the same like critical thinking skills that you would apply to Googling for a research project to Googling an organization, right? Of course, typically the first thing that comes up is going to be their own website, but you can dig a little deeper. You can look at different websites that tell you maybe a little bit about the organization. You can go as deep into the Google search results as you want. You can Google specific things, but you're going to continue to draw out information, especially when you're looking at large organizations. We're a mid-sized company, so our initial Google results are not that exciting, but it gives you information about who our senior leadership team is. You know, you can see kind of what news pieces have come up, right? What kinds of current events our business is impacted by, right? And you don't just have to limit your Googling to the organization. Maybe insurance or whatever the industry is new to you and you want to just find out more, right? What do people do who are in this position at other organizations and just log in there. The last few things to consider are going to be your network. So we all are, what is it, like everybody's like 3 degrees from Kevin Bacon or whatever. So it's like you're likely to be like 3 degrees at least from somebody who does something in the industry that you're interested in. So ask, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's family, just, hey, do you know anybody that does this? Or do you know anybody that works for this company? You know, right? So that's a great place to just gather information. Competitors. So we are a West Coast based property and casualty insurer. That means that some of our biggest competitors are people or organizations like Travelers Insurance, Allstate, Geico, you name it, keep going down there. Anybody that does auto and property are going to be part of our competition, right? Especially if they have a presence in the states in which we do business. And so you're going to get to compare between Travelers and Allstate and Geico and Capital Insurance Group. You know, what do each of these organizations present themselves as, and which one do I feel the most compelled towards? I'm not saying go to Travelers and Allstate. In fact, I'm telling you the complete opposite. I'm going to be 100% and say that our presence is probably a little bit more exciting than theirs. But, you know, everybody's seen the Allstate commercials, hopefully, Geico, right? We don't have that, right? But what we do have is the gosh, I just lost the word in my head. We do have the notoriety within the insurance business, right? So that's where your network's going to really come into play. And comparing the social media and online presence of the organization. Other things to look at, which might come up in your Google searches, news outlets, you can put in the organization into places like Forbes, Bloomberg Business, New York Times, local news outlets, right? And depending on the size of the company, you might come back with information about what that organization is doing. Tesla's a great example. I want to get into EV, but let me look up the relationship between Tesla and Reno Tahoe. Do they have a good relationship based off of what's being put out there? So things like that can also inform the values of an organization. And then the last piece is going to be parent companies. So our organization is a part of the Auto Owners Insurance Group. Auto Owners is a national insurance organization. And we are the arm of Auto Owners that does business predominantly on the West Coast. So you're going to learn about some of the trickle down, and you'll have that trickle down of values, of employee experience, right? Not to a great extent, but it can give you a sense of what's the direction of our organization based off of our relationship to auto owners and the other groups and the other insurance companies that are inside of the group, right? And also a lot of auto owners is a mutual, which has specific concepts in relationship to its policyholders. So how does that impact an organization like ours? So it's going to give you a lot of, if the organization has a parent company, it's going to give you a lot of sort of tertiary information that might inform questions, might inform the overall experience of an employee of that organization. Kind of like, I want to go work at ESPN, but ESPN is a Disney company, right? So what does that mean? How does that alter the experience of working there? That's all I got for now. Unless there's any questions, please take my information, write it down, call me, email me. I'm happy to connect offline. We're also going to be here next week at the Spring Career Fair. So you're welcome to come. I will be there personally. So you're welcome to come over and ask me questions as a follow-up. But please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or ask them now. Yeah.
Kind of spinning this around, and I mean, you can only speak for yourself, but maybe other trends that you see across recruiters, but what kind of stuff would recruiters use to like research applicants?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So it's going to be different. Our organization predominantly uses LinkedIn, which is really going to be the biggest piece because they also have the recruitment tools built in that you can opt into, especially if you're looking for work. And so that's going to be a big one. And you'll kind of notice, like, if you look at your friends' LinkedIn versus their like Instagram, you're going to notice maybe the difference in what they post. I wouldn't be surprised if some organizations, especially those that maybe are in the media space, look at your social media presence across the board. For us, that doesn't really impact anything. But if we find that you don't have a LinkedIn presence, that might be like a question, especially if we look at your resume and it doesn't fit with our what we're looking for, or there's a question about it or things like that. But we mostly look at resumes and LinkedIn. Some hiring managers will do a little bit more digging if they're interested in a candidate. So it's good to kind of have your online presence like buttoned up in a way that feels comfortable and reflective of who you truly are. But in our case, yeah, mostly gonna be LinkedIn. Yeah.
Other questions? Well, we have Sierra here for another 10-ish minutes.
Yeah, you don't have to feel pressed. And like whenever I'm teaching in my classroom, I'm like, oh, do you guys have a question? But there like are a million things that you could do to research that. The reality is that most people are going to be interested in having a sense of knowing that you know something beyond just what's on the website, right? So having done research, especially once you get that interview, because I know like a lot of times, and especially in the world we live in now, you're sending out a lot of applications, which is totally fine. But at the same time, when you get that pre-screen interview, you want to know why you want to work there, right? What interests you about the organization. And so having that, spending that time to really get aligned with, okay, what am I looking for? And how does the organization present themselves in a way that puts them inside of what I'm looking for will help you answer that question. And we straight up ask, and the hiring managers ask, what do you know about Capital Insurance Group and why do you want to work here? And it's always it always sends off a little alarm bell when somebody doesn't know anything, right? Even if you just know that like this year is our 150th anniversary of being a company, that's better than nothing. But the more you know, the more you're going to stand out and the more you can express that. Yeah, I was surprised when I got into HR. I'm new to research organizations because that's always kind of been told, but nobody had really ever stressed to me the importance of it and the value of it. And more as the landscape changes around what employees are looking for in organizations, the more that this kind of influences, you know, whether you take the job or whether they hire you, right? So, especially because culture is so important, and for many organizations that are thinking about the employee experience, they're thinking about the maintenance of a culture that is productive for what they're trying to achieve, and that comes through in that conversation for sure. Yeah, that's all for me today.
All right, thank you so much, Sierra, for being here today. And as Sierra mentioned, Capital Insurance Group will be at the Spring Career Fair next Thursday, and she will be back with us. So looking forward to have you back.
I'm not sure, but it will say CIG on it. And I'll have a couple of coworkers with me. It'll be fun.